All right, welcome back to another WrightStew Podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright, and we met it to Saturday. If you have to make it to Saturday, I think you get to make it to Saturday. But, last night, pretty big news if you're, following the draft again. I don't watch it, but I do like to see who is drafted. I am curious enough about that. But famously, Shadeur Sanders was not drafted in the second round.
Didn't make it. So we're actually recording this. We've got a busy Saturday. So Brian and I are recording this on Friday evening. We've seen through round 2. So we're going to speak to what we know to this point. Shadeur has not been drafted. And the team who seemingly needed the quarterback, the Saints, selected Tyler Show from Louisville. The 25-year-old quarterback. I mean, Brian, 25?
Yeah, well, famously Chris Winkie, right? I mean, he played professional baseball, then came back and played. There's been some levels of success, marginal or, I don't think with the window so small, because for a quarterback, you can envision if one gets kind of to their peak and instead of starter, if you have a quarterback that plays from 26 to 36, that's not really a surprise, right? And so quarterback is one of those positions I feel like you can do that with. I don't know if you do it with other positions because the game, even in college, is so violent. And especially in the NFL, once you get to that point, the game's so violent. I do think, we see a lot now where kids are being held back in 8th grade. And so you end up with like a almost 16-year-old freshman. You see it in all sports. I don't necessarily think it's fair. And you were almost barely a 17-year-old senior.
Yeah. My senior year of high school, I was 16. I turned 17 into my senior year. So I was on the complete opposite side of that.
And there's definitely some physical advantages, mental. I would imagine people take that into account. I definitely, the Louisville kid, I guess for whatever reason, my algorithm thinks I wanted this Shadeur, and I did. It's not that I'm really pulling against him. It's just I feel like I wasn't the only one with Shadeur who thought he may be a little overhyped. And certainly the NFL people thought that too. I tell you something else: humility. Having legendary already in his house and having the Giants cleats, wearing those at one point in time, and then posting them on Instagram, and then dad, going back and forth with somebody on Twitter about, hey, my son's getting ready to be a top, 5 draft pick. What's your son doing? I think some of those things are what turn people off.
Yeah, and I think about that. I was actually thinking about that earlier today as a parent. He's a different level of parent, right? He's just a different level of human being in person with what he's done, what he's accomplished, that sort of thing from a sports perspective, right? When it boils down to it, we're all, not all of us, but those who are fathers or mothers or parents, guardians, we all go through that with our kids, especially in athletics, and we want the best for them. We want them to do great every time, and we want them to get recruited by the best schools and get drafted by the best, or get drafted or whatever it is. And I imagine he's just, and you hurt so much for your kids when things aren't going well, and you wish you had a magic pill or just something you could do, or just tell them one thing and then all of a sudden they're hitting better or running faster or doing whatever it is, and that's just not how it works. And I can't imagine how Dion probably is feeling, because how much time he's invested, everything that he's done to put Shadeur in the best possible position.
And I'll say this, and again, not jumping on him, but this is when Christianity kind of gets turned off publicly. Like, he's throwing out verses, and I guess sometimes when you read the Bible, it's what situation you're in is how you interpret it. So you got one person, Dion professes to be a Christian, and I'm not here to judge any of that, but you hear kind of the arrogance and kind of his daily life and then he throws up Bible verses, and then you hear, it's just there's some incongruencies there that I think throw people off. I'll go back to what you originally said about your children. I think failure early on, you ultimately want them to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
But what I think you can't do is always protect them. If you are always protecting them and put them in a situation where they're the best player, or they're not going to have to compete, they're not going to have to really struggle to figure out a way to get on a team, you're not doing them favors in the long run, because there's going to be at some point in time in their athletic career where they're going to have to compete, they're going to have to battle, and if they've always been put in favorable situations, they're not going to know how to handle that.
Yeah, that makes it. Yeah, it makes it really, really tough. And yeah, you and I, we've been through, professional sports struggles and college sports struggles, and
For sure.
even
For
high
sure.
school, some hiccups here and there, right? But
for sure.
Sure. Yeah, man, it's again, you hate to see somebody go through it, but I think back, now many years later, like the lessons it taught me, the perseverance it taught me, the work ethic, the discipline, the drive, all the things. Now that I'm applying to professional life, to this podcast, to other things, and it's like, well, and realistically, like the lessons I can share with others and things that I did or wish that I would have done in reaction to different things. Like we kind of jokingly share that I gave up 6 home runs in a game, right? And I did. California League record. We looked it up, but man, like it sucked at the time, but I can now share that sort when, like, if my kids are going bad or something, like, hey, like I've been there, like I know what it feels like, and I can say, like, this is how you do it. There's another game, go out there and do better the next time. And so again, hopefully, again, we wish for all the success for our children and the kids we coach, but at the same time, that some of that is part of the growing pains and part of the maturing process.
Yeah, it's part of life. I mean, I think again, not to be harsh, your original statements, I definitely had thought, like with all the successes that Deion's had, I still can relate to, from a parent's standpoint, wanting their kids to get what they've worked for, or at least pursue. And I would say they work for. And I mean, he's come a long ways from being basically a quarterback at a small private Christian school, to going to a historically black college and having success there, and then going to Colorado. And I know it gets made out, and there's a lot of people that hate on it, and probably rightfully so, as far as retiring the numbers already. But Colorado was an afterthought.
Yeah, they were
before they came there.
They were really bad. Yeah,
and I know he only finished one game above 500 in his career, but as far as what he did for the program, there's a lot of positives too. I just think from a human perspective, humility speaks to people a lot more than showing a $100,000 watch, or always kind of telling people how good you are. I'm much more on the side of, let me show you how good I am, opposed to telling.
Let your actions and play on the field speak for you. But what the other thing that's, like, at least interesting to me is, I mean, Cam Ward got drafted first, and we're talking about Shadeur Sanders. Travis Hunter got traded up for, and it's going to be potentially a legendary player in the NFL. And we're talking about Shadeur Sanders. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that does mean something, right? It's people.
Well, it means that his name has been in the news so much. I don't think it's, there's always been a saying, like, any press is good press, and I don't necessarily. I think their name has just been so put out into kind of the public that it's just there. I think Cam Ward. I told you I saw that video when he was in high school. And I also heard a story about him when he went down to Miami. There was a guy at Miami, and I guess they have player-led workouts with Cam Ward. Yeah. And so he'd only been there like 2 or 3 days, Cam Ward, and they're doing player-led workouts. And this guy, I think, is a former player, somebody who had access, who could work out, and he kind of overlooks the indoor facility. And he was saying, dude, literally by third day, he was leading the team. Right. Like, he was telling people what to do, how to do it. He was MFing them, whether you like that or not. He was getting his stuff, and there was expectations set.
You got to hold people accountable, yeah.
And who that reminds you of is like Peyton Manning, and that reminds you of Tom Brady. That reminds you of the guys that were really good.
Steve Young did it, yeah.
That don't remind you of somebody who's showing you the watch and telling you about how much money they have and what they're going to be. That's kind of somebody who's in the present. That reminds you like Jordan. That reminds you of some really greats have those characteristics. Yeah. And everybody throws around this word alpha a lot. Everybody's not alpha, or it's just not possible, or we'd all be fighting. Everybody's not alpha. I think you can have some. It's become such a term that is kind of a synonym for success, and that's not always the case. I think. Go ahead.
I say it reminds me too of we talk about it a lot with like leadership, right? There's positional versus authentic. And as a quarterback, you are going to have positional leadership assigned to you. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are good at it, or it's something that you can actually do, and people get on your bandwagon, right? Authentic leaders, like you said, are Cam Wards, who are there early, hitting the weights, getting in people's face, challenging in a positive and productive way. To make your team better, hold them accountable. So there's a lot and again, you see a lot of that just in life in general. Positional.
I would say so, and I would almost say a lot of that stuff is intangible. I mean, we talked about it earlier, talking about you played with a kid who was a JMU quarterback who could really spin the ball, and I was around some guys who were D2 and D3 quarterbacks who could really spin the ball, and I'm not saying they could spin it to any level, but some of these intangible things, as far as obviously processing, they talk about, but just we've all been around people who had kind of that personality, right? That kind of you felt drawn to and you would be willing to follow. And then there's the opposite of that too. And I think sometimes it comes down to selfishness. It comes down, are the goals truly aligned from a personal standpoint to a team standpoint? But yeah, it's going to be interesting that, a lot of executives kind of thought, maybe the way I did. Did you expect him to go early? I mean, I guess I've asked you that, Paul.
I thought the Steelers were going to take him in the first round, is what I thought.
And I wouldn't have been surprised.
No. But here's the other thing this reminds me a lot of, right? Lonzo Ball and his kids. A little bit of the old Charles Barkley, I'm not a role model. And then a little bit of the LeBron James when he went down to Miami and just got crushed by everybody. Remember, he had the Nike commercial come out where he was kind of wore the black cowboy hat and some other things. And I feel like Shadeur is coming out and there's no middle ground with fella. You're going to love him or you're going to hate him. But either way, I don't know how long that's going to. I mean, based on this draft now. And again, just because you're drafting in the third. Lots of, Tom Brady was the fourth round or sixth round, whatever it was. Russell Wilson was the third round. Like, there have been Brock Purdy was the last pick. There have been some really successful quarterbacks who were not drafted. Ryan Leaf was the second overall pick. Homeboy didn't work out. Jamarcus Russell was the first overall pick. Didn't work out, right? I don't think draft status or draft round matter. It does matter to some extent. It gets you more chances because they want to be proven right. But once you have a uniform on, then you have a chance to compete. So I think he's going to get more chances as well because of his name. But maybe this is what he needed.
We may be getting to a point where his name hurts him, right? There's a fine line because there's expectations. His name is kind of, and his personality is already out there, but it's going to be interesting. I don't disagree with you though, 100%. If he gets a chance, I feel like most guys, I don't know if it's always the case. There's only 32 positions, right? Yeah. Only 32 starting positions, which is, if you be one of 32 for a short period of time, what an incredible honor if you really think about it.
Oh yeah,
you're really just one of 64. If you can be number 2 on the depth chart, there's 64 people that can get to do this job.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty awesome. But
yeah, I think either way is whatever the play is on the field, whether he's a comet and shines bright for a short time, or if he's a long time backup or a starter. I think he's going to make more money probably in endorsements then maybe contracts are pretty strong, but he's gonna get Nike money. He's gonna get some other. Yeah, he's gonna get a
Does
lot.
he? Who does he appeal to? I mean, there's got to be people.
You know who
I
he
know
appeals to?
we're outside of the
12,
demographic, I guess
12
now.
to 25. Yeah, not our demographic.
Yeah,
12 to 25-year-olds, 12-year-old boys to 25-year-old young men, boys, whatever you want to call them. That's the demographic he appeals to, right? Maybe up to 30-year-olds. He'll get and a little bit, like you said, a little bit. It feels like that's he clearly loves to play football and is good at it. But sometimes, like you said, with flashing the watch and stuff, it feels like it's a little more about the kind of the Deion Sanders prime time stuff and not the actual play on the field. So again, it's yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll keep an eye on it as we record. Like I said, record this on Friday night. But Brian, your Detroit Tigers rained out, rained. So Tigers best tied for the best record in the AL with the Yankees, which is absolutely phenomenal. But playing the Orioles on Friday night got rained out. So Brian, rain delays right now. So as coaching our 13-year-old boys and things like that, rain delays are pretty terrible because there's kind
yeah,
of
they're
there's
terrible
nowhere
until
to
you get to.
go.
Yeah, they're terrible until you get to college and you got a clubhouse, you
Yep.
got places you can go, and or professional baseball. They suck, and even then, you want a decision to be made, right? You don't want to sit in there and get sleepy if you've had your coffee or whatever, your Fedra, whatever was legal for you
Get
at
some
the time.
ephedrine.
You only got
Can't
you've
pop
got a
another one.
window. You got a window to feel good. You've taken your ibuprofen if you got a little ding, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
that body's kind of going. So you got a window to feel good. Man, there wasn't a whole lot of good things that I did with my time. But you played longer minor league ball. You had a lot more. Any stories that stand out from minor league baseball as far as something you may have done? Did you ever go slide on the tarp? Did you ever hear
Yeah.
of one being like famously in Bull Durham where they call, say,
I'll
a rain
call it the
out?
run rain delay now.
Did you ever hear of anything like that?
Well, so what as a starting, like you said, as a starting pitcher, you want that decision, like, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? And a lot of that, honestly, in the minor leagues, depends on if it's Friday night fireworks night and they got a big crowd and they can sell more merch and hot dogs and soda pops. They try to get that game in.
100%.
And all the fields have tarps and they cover everything and keep it. The funny thing is, and Brian, as an outfielder, you probably appreciate this or don't appreciate it. They could care less about the out. There could be a pond in the outfield, like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The
if
water
the
is
infield looks
going
good,
there, and you can swim with the fishies out there sometimes.
and nobody cares as long as the infield and the mound look good. That's all they care about,
100%.
which is pretty funny. But no, I think that's part of it, and especially those days when they're kind of calling for rain off and on and that sort of thing. I think I got to the mindset where, and I try to tell my kids this, and it's like just assume that you are going to play.
Oh, 100%.
Have it in your mind that if game time is 7 o'clock, you are playing at 7 o'clock. Don't think like, oh, we might get banged, because then mentally you haven't checked out, but you're not as locked in as you could potentially be. Right. So that does play kind of mind games with you. Here's something kind of similar. My oldest, they had a game last week, 2 weeks ago, and they changed it on the schedule from a Saturday to a Friday, but they didn't tell the umpires, and
That's
so they didn't have
that's
umpires. So
tough.
they had to wait an hour and a half past what, and it was a nice day, a little windy, but a normal nice day. But they had to wait an hour and a half, and they ended up losing game one in a game they probably should have won. But I don't know if like mentally the girls stayed locked in. Right? There's
Oh
something,
yeah,
and so rain delays in the minor leagues. Yeah, I mean some clubhouses are a little nicer than others. You spend enough time in there that you probably don't need to spend any more time. Typically, it's a lot of guys play cards. The TV's on. You're watching whatever's on TV. movie, depending on how long it is. Some guys get into, if you have cages underneath in the tunnel, something like that, guys will get some swings in. As a pitcher, it gets a little. I've seen this a few times where, again, if there's a cage or a tunnel or a mound underneath, a pitcher will kind of stay on schedule with the innings, right? So, because once a starter gets hot,
Yeah, he's done. Yeah.
yeah, so you get going, and you don't want to get cold because if you get cold, then they'll just throw a reliever. So I've seen it a couple times where the pitching coach say, "Hey, well, in 10 minutes, we're going to have you throw like 15 pitches to simulate like an inning, right?" And it'll just typically just be fastballs just to get your arm loose. They'll wait another 20 minutes, throw another 15 pitches, and then usually after a couple times, that'll be the end of the cycle. And say, "All right, you're done. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna have you go back out there." So that's a big thing to consider, especially in minor leagues when you're short on numbers, short on arms. So that's something. And then again, just trying to stay loose but stay focused at the same time. And like you mentioned, it's kind of overtime for trainers as well because you're keeping guys warm and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, and you're trying to get the right cocktail of energy, right? And that's
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
don't realize. I mean, I can remember, and I felt like most college games, I felt pretty good because you would find reasons, right? And you could play my games maybe a little bit easier, but like 80% of the time, I would say that's probably too strong a number. What was it like? 40% of the time you feel maybe it's like 50% of the time you feel bad. 25% of the time you feel really good, and then there's like 25% of the time you're okay. And
Yeah.
so and I have those numbers off. That's not the right numbers, but anyway, there's rarely that you feel good.
Yeah, I think it's like 50. You're just like 50% of the time you're just kind of in the middle somewhere. 25 you feel bad, and 25 you feel good, something like that. Yeah, I get it. But the other,
So yeah, you're just trying to mentally lock in, and the game has gotten to a point now. I think the technology's gotten to a point now, especially if you're in the big leagues or some of these higher. I mean, some of these simulators they have in these stadiums
yeah,
are incredible. Literally, you're watching somebody pitch and a ball shoots out of where their hand is going to come. It's
yeah.
incredible. So it's. I tell you what's incredible. Hey, the Wolfpack have taken 2 out of 3 from Clemson, who's number 2 in the country.
Well, they've taken 2 out of 2, right?
Yes.
2 out of
But at
2.
least 2 out of 3. Yeah.
It was weird. I saw the end of that game as well, and as soon as it over, they threw a graphic on the screen. Yeah, NC State has clinched the series, and like I was like, I didn't. I mean, they did, but I didn't really like that. I don't know why, because it's like they were, NC State was out there, celebrating appropriately, like they'd won a game. But it was, I was like, oh, I don't really like. I mean, they did clinch the series, but it's like, let's finish the series before we say that. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, and I think that is a different mindset. NC State has done a really good job. They went through a stretch where they really could not hit as a team, and I think they've got some people that can really teach it. And there's a couple of kids. I can't remember the kid's name. Went 5 for 5 last night with 2 home runs.
Oh,
Great night. They're doing some really good things. I think they got some really good teachers. They kind of have really cut down. Early in the year they were losing some games, and probably 15, 18 guys that are legitimately are supposed to be able to pitch, and their weekend cycles got down to 6 or 7 guys, and so
is that
you got 3 obviously weekend starters.
What it is? I mean, what does it look like on a college rotation from what like your days?
I think it's changed, and I think it varies by who you got and what you got. I think if you looked at ECU, you wouldn't be able to tell who their guys were, but I feel like NC State's gotten down to now. I think that's what good teams get to. You have your 3 weekend starters, and you have your 3 or 4 guys that are going to take care of you in mid relief, and a lot of times, a lot of teams, we did last year. NC State did last year. Don't have just a traditional closer. I know that there's been different teams that have done different things, but they've got their 6 or 7 guys, 3 weekend starters. Now during the week, it's a different story. You let guys throw. I think that's part of the reason sometimes the records in the week games they got blown out by like upstate, South Carolina upstate.
Yeah.
And that'd be like, and you're like, gosh, how you get? Well, you're letting guys throw who haven't thrown a ton.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes that midweek game becomes almost a developmental game. And then, I mean, your starters are still your starters, but as far as from a pitching standpoint, but man, they've figured out their rotation. And there's a lot of guys, probably that at least on the guns that are 93 to 97. I haven't seen below 93 on fastball. I mean, it's really impressive.
Yeah. So Braden Frostman is
Yes.
the guy you referenced. Right fielder went 5 for 5, scored 2 runs, hit a couple home runs, 7 RBIs on the Thursday night. So why are they playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Do you know?
It could be TV driven now. I mean, I know they did it last weekend because of Easter.
Yeah.
It could be TV driven, but I don't know. Normally, you have a couple of these series that are like this, and usually one. It may be around exams. We may have exams the following week.
That's school. Always getting in the way. Yeah. Dang on. Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention about rainouts. I'm gonna bring it back. So the hardest part of rainouts was or rain delays, whatever it is. So in ye olden days, pitchers had to do charts, like legit paper and pencil in the we sit in the stands. The hardest part was when it started raining and you still play the game for like 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, before they say, all right, you're trying to keep your chart dry and still write on it without poking a hole in the paper. That was probably legitimately like the hardest part of rain delays or those kind of
I
games.
can appreciate that. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
We went to the Mudcats game, and there was. I think it may have been a young cross check. I don't even want to say cross checker, but there's somebody that was very intently taking down every move of everybody and video them. And there were MLB associated somehow, and I'm not sure if it was with another club.
Yeah.
But obviously, everything is computer, iPad.
Yeah, they could be. Yeah, there's a lot of professional scouts who go and watch games. And I remember sitting in some of those guys, man. I question how they had jobs because we'd sit there in the stands as pitchers doing our charts, and you'd hear there's usually one or two at a game, and they'd kind of sit around you and essentially when they go look at teams, they have to see every starter in the rotation, every pitcher, take notes, and the whole thing. And these are guys that I'm pitching against, and they'd be like, "Oh, I like this guy." I'm like, "That guy's terrible. I hope he. I wish they had 9 of that guy." The scout loved him. I'm like, what are these guys looking at? Like
sometimes, I mean, I think, and that's maybe very true, but I think you're kind of like I was never afraid to compete, and hey, if I was going to compete with somebody, I wasn't going to pump them up. That's for sure. So I wonder.
No, this was legitimate. Like guys who were like 0 for 10 against me on the season, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to try to get this guy in a trade." I'm like,
"Get out of here!"
Yeah, I hope we play him every day next year. Battle leadoff. That'd be great, dude. Yeah. So Brian, awesome. What you get into this weekend? I know you've got a big Saturday plan, right?
Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot. If we got time, not real sure. No, we got my oldest daughter's got prom.
Oof.
That doesn't involve me doing a whole lot. Maybe going somewhere where they're going to take pictures, and I don't know why I have to go, but I'm supposed to go.
I've been through that a couple times. I went and
I just don't understand. Like, it feels like the parent involvement has really escalated. I don't remember when I went to prom. We took some pictures outside of my car. Me and my girlfriend got in the car and we drove to the prom. Or no, we drove to dinner, and then I drove to prom, and then I came back home. Now,
where does one go for dinner in Ram Sewer?
Well, you have to go to Greensboro. You got to go somewhere else. You got to go.
Oh, you got to go to. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys have prom? Was it the prom like in Greensboro, or did you guys do it?
I think it was just at high school. I think we're just doing it at the high school. We weren't. I can't recall. We may have done it somewhere else. That's a great question. I think we were just at the high school.
Okay.
And but it was. I don't know, man. I just feel like everything now is a effing production, dude. Everything is like, oh, this is a big deal. You got to go do this. It's like, dude. I've been 18 once. It's not that big a deal. Let's just keep it moving. We ain't got to spend, next week's money on this week's crap,
Yeah. We got my 2 older dogs. We did the whole thing. Went and took the pictures. Big groups going to dinner together, and the whole thing. I can't.
Hey, one thing I need to bring up. Did your daughters do? I forget what it's called. It's called like. It's like this big water gun fight with all the seniors.
Yeah, it was actually that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was fun.
yeah.
You're
So
not digging it?
no. I kind of into this.
What do you
I'm
call it? Like
kind of into
it's
this.
like Manhunt or
Yeah, maybe it's Manhunt something. But yeah, they made it to the third round.
yeah.
Um, doing well. Obviously, they use Snapchat, use some different tools. You got to have your Snapchat open. You can't shoot anybody on school grounds.
Senior assassin is what they call it. Senior assassin.
Yes, and
Wait,
yeah,
hold
so
on.
they made.
Let's lay this out. I think you have to get a. I don't think you can have like the super soaker. You have to have like a pistol type water gun, and you get assigned. There's an app for it. I think there's an app. You get assigned like a student. So like, say I
No, how at least how they're done right now. There's groups of 6,
okay,
and it's bracketed with everybody else who signed up. Everybody puts in $20,
yeah.
and so it's kind of a bracket thing. So now it's almost like this group of 6 is playing this group of 6,
Oh, it's like
and
team.
it's 1 week. You have 1 week
Oh,
to get as many. You don't have to kill everybody. So if you get 3, and
and they
then they
only
only
get
get
2.
2,
You win.
the group that killed 3
Okay.
wins.
Okay,
And
our school
so,
did it. My daughter's school did it different. They did individuals, and they were assigned like. Here's the thing that I did not like about it though. After like the 4th round, they said, "Oh, for $10, you can get back in."
oh yeah, I don't think that's happening. They're pretty
No.
strict. I don't like that either. I don't like any of the buy-ins. And
Yeah.
if you ever play cards, I'm not a fan of the buyback in. I've been in a situation where I've won and won and won, and then guy buys back in a couple of times. All of a sudden, he ends up taking home all the money at the end.
It's not
And
right.
so I'm not a fan of buying back in. I agree 100% with you on
Yeah.
that.
So
But it's a
and
great. I had a lot of sneaking around, a lot of calling friends where they don't recognize this person's vehicle. Like Lake, my oldest daughter, had to get her nails and toes done for prom or whatever. She has a girl that's a junior. She calls her up and says, "Hey, I'm surrounded." Pull right up in front of the place, and she runs and jumps out. Tonight they were
oh,
at a Trader Joe's. The group that they were going against was kind of desperate, blocked them in at Trader Joe's, blocked them in. They called Trader Joe's and says, "Hey, somebody's blocking us in. We don't know why. Will you come get them to move?" The
oh, wow.
employees come out there, talk to them, figure out what's going on. They eventually make a move. They get out, and it ends. This round ends tonight at midnight, and
Just
our
sit
group
in
is
your
moving
room.
on.
Just sit in your room. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was one of the issues. What I think my second daughter faced was ours was an individual. Like you got assigned an individual, and
that's so tough, dude.
once
Yeah,
you knocked out that one, you got another one, and that person. So it just kind of kept going.
I
But
like the team concept.
but they
I
didn't
really
know
do.
who had who.
Oh, yeah, you do know in this,
Yeah.
so you 100% know.
Well, that like the assassin knew who they were going after, but the person that was getting chased didn't know.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
your head was always on a swivel. But there was one kid. So again, everybody's on Snap. It has to be shared. Look, my daughter's trying to get this one kid, and she's like, "Fella never leaves his house."
yeah.
And she's like, "I don't know what I'm going to do," because there's sometimes when like people just hang out. So, I don't know. It was kind of fun. I enjoy. I thought it was cool, but
I do. I agree. That is a new thing that I am on board for and
yeah,
would have
yeah,
really got into.
yeah, I like it. Well, Brian, may I'd like to see maybe get some prom pictures of you. And we'll throw them on our socials. If you want to see prom pictures of Brian, shoot us a message. Let us know.
Nobody's shooting matches. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely look better than I do now. I think that's we get into this another time. But no, let's get some of Paulie's. Paulie's look great. I see him every time I go to the speaker studio. His young self playing minor league baseball,
Oh,
18, 19
geez.
years old. He's beautiful.
I think I got
But
some.
hey,
I think I've got a prom picture or two of my wife and I. Maybe in honor of that, I'll post that one on one of our socials. So prom season's happening. But well, hey, yeah, thank you for listening today. We appreciate it. We hope you have an amazing sports day. And again, we hope your favorite team gets the pick of the future for them.
I
And
don't. I'm only pulling for Panthers.
maybe one day Shadeur will get drafted, and we'll talk about
Maybe
it.
by the Panthers. All right, out. Go
All
Pack. Go
right.
Tigers.